Hello, everybody. Welcome to After the Game with Todd Leary, Indiana basketball post-game show today. Indiana versus Harvard in Indianapolis at Gainbridge Stadium. Todd Leary, of course, coming to you live from Hoosier Hanks East off of College Mall Road. He's getting fed and eating some great food. It drives me insane. I can smell it from here. But how are you? Happy Thanksgiving.
I'm doing great. Thank you. It was a good holiday. And, boy, the Hoosiers sure made it feel a lot better today than the way it could have turned out. They played a really good team. And actually, I think we got a lot of really positive things to talk about.
Well, anytime you play Harvard, you're playing smart guys, number one. These guys are literally not dumb, and they play a style that makes you work, and they look like a pretty damn good basketball team out there watching.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the typical Harvard
three-pointer at all.
The typical Harvard we're used to is like the old Princeton offense, the old back cuts that make you work and all that. Not anymore. These guys are athletic, and they can shoot, and they can play, and that Malik freshman kid is he's a perfect example of why the rating system in high school athletes stinks, because he was not rated high because he's not athletic and he's not big and physical and all that. And boy, you telling me that kid couldn't help a lot of programs, I tell you, you're wrong.
Yeah, he may be in the portal after another year or two. First degree.
Unless he's like a nuclear biologist or something, I'm going to guess you're probably right.
We don't want to talk about the portal. Indiana has lost now 5 quarterbacks in the last 3 years, two in the last 2 days, I think, with Dexter Williams going in already today and Brendan Sorsby in the portal. But we're not here to talk about football. We're here to talk about a good basketball game and a breakout game of sorts for McKenzie Mgbako. His first shot that he got early in the game looked like a 3. And they ended up taking it off the board, making it a 2, but doesn't matter. He took it, he was comfortable, he hit it, and he kept doing that throughout the day when he had the opportunity. He had an even game with 9 points in each half. He didn't force anything, but having him be a part of that, it sure seemed like it opened things up a little bit more for guys like Kel'el, Ware, and Malik Reneau. 28 points on the day for Ware. Another big day for him, and he's looking way more and more comfortable each and every game.
Yeah, I mean, so if this was Mgbako's first basketball game at Indiana, we would be talking about him like he's a top 15 pick, like they're projecting him to be. This is the Mgbako I think people expected to see, just a comfortable shooter out there on the floor that contributed in a bunch of others. He had 8 rebounds in this game. I mean, that's a major contribution for this basketball team that struggles to rebound. And he got some tough ones, two big ones on offensive missed free throws. So, he contributed. You could tell he was more involved in the game. You're right, Jim. And I'm gonna pat us both on the back and say we've been saying all along, if he would make his first couple of shots, I think his confidence level and the way that he plays would dramatically be changed. And that's what a freshman needs. I mean, you weren't able to hear it, but Robbie Hummel interviewing Coach Woodson after the game on TV, he said, what are your thoughts on Mgbako having a breakout game and all that? And he said he's a freshman. I mean, you can say he struggled, but you could also say he's adapted like most other freshmen have adapted. And it's just for some people the process is not for some people, it's different for everyone. And hopefully this is each game is going to be a little bit of a stepping stone. Hopefully this is a giant stepping stone for Mgbako from a comfortable standpoint and feeling good out on the court. And he definitely looked more comfortable. This is not, you're not going to say that Indiana or Mgbako or whatever beat Harvard because we just out-physicaled them or were way bigger than them or more athletic. They're a big, strong, physical, athletic team that can shoot the ball well. So this is not your typical, after Thanksgiving turkey basketball game that you played here. I mean, you played a pretty good team that I think is going to have a pretty darn good record, and you were able to beat them on an NCAA venued place, and that's a big deal. Like, I love the fact that Indiana's playing in Madison Square Garden, and Gainbridge this weekend, and you know that's a huge factor and going to be a big deal for this team when it comes March.
Yeah, you've got Atlanta coming up soon. You've got a big game with Kansas that will be a tournament-like atmosphere.
Crazy atmosphere, yep.
It's going to be nuts. And Indiana was able to do this without their leading point guard, their senior leader, Xavier Johnson, who is just still nursing that ankle. He tried to go, and it just wasn't working. So Indiana had to go with plan B, and they were able to just dominate in the paint and not get a ton done from the guards, which you can probably get away with that in a game like this. But going forward in those games, they're going to have a little more production from the guards. But of course, you know, Xavier was out, so I have to acknowledge that. But at the same time, in or out, they've got to get a little more production from the guards going forward, I think.
Yeah, the guards and shooting the basketball. I put my tagline there is 4 for 15. Not to be negative, it's a reminder that this team was able to score 89 points in this basketball game, still only making 4 3-pointers. And I'm going to continue to beat this drum all year long and say this team has to be able to make 6 to 9 3-pointers to consistently be competitive in the Big Ten. And you know, you just put yourself at such a disadvantage. Like, let me give you an example. Harvard was in this game. Indiana wins by 13, but I mean, you were there. I watched every second of it. Harvard was in this game for the majority of the game, and they didn't shoot the ball very well. They shot 9 of 26 from the 3-point line, but it sure didn't seem that way, did it? Because those 9 3-pointers make such a big difference.
Well, in the first half, it was 8. They hit 8 in the first half, only 1 in the second half.
It keeps you in the game. It puts you in, and it's not a good percentage. They only shot just over 35%. They shoot 35%. That's not great. That's nothing incredible.
Points add up.
Yeah, it really does. And so, you know, it's just one of those examples of that's something I didn't want to put it up there as a negative. I think there are so many positives to talk about in this game for Indiana that, you know, it'd be ridiculous for me to harp on a negative. And I'm not looking at it that way. I'm just saying 4 for 15, they've got to find a way to make 6 to 9 3-pointers, you know, in order to be competitive. And you know, this team competitive in the Big Ten. And this team sets out a goal. Coach Woodson is coming from the Coach Knight era, and the goal every single year is the exact same thing, and that is to win the Big Ten, because if you win the Big Ten, you put yourself in a great position to have a good seed in the NCAA tournament and make a run and have a chance to get into a Final Four. And that's the goal every year, and that starts this week. And you know, resting Xavier today, if Malik's back, wasn't feeling 90 to 100%, like I don't want him playing either. Like, I'm glad they took him out. He did come back in and had major contributions. So Tim Garl is as conservative as it gets. They're not going to put him out there if he's at risk at all. So I just need, this team needs to be healthy going into Friday. And, you know, it's a gigantic, it's a big help and a big leap forward. You're not digging yourself out from a hole if you can start these first 2 December Big Ten games 2-0. And if you're able to do that, you've always got one at home and one on the road. They've got Maryland, who struggled a little bit at home. They've got them coming home this Friday, and that's a game that Indiana just has to win. No questions asked, has to win. And then they're going to go on the road and try to beat Michigan, a team that struggled a little bit also. So, I mean, those are 2 really, really good opportunities for this team. I mean, these next 4 basketball games for Indiana are a gauntlet, and this is what Indiana fans wanted, and this is what we love. Like, we love these games. I'd rather Indiana be playing Kansas and Auburn and Maryland and Michigan. It's big time month for Indiana basketball.
We talked about Malik Reneau having kind of a breakout game of sorts. Just getting off the schneid is what it is. It's not like he scored 40 points, but he looked comfortable, confident, like you said early on. He took that shot quick. That was in the first minute of the game, I think.
Yep.
When that shot went up and in, and boy, it was like he'd been doing it all day. But we have to go right to Kel'el, Ware 28 points on 12 of 13 from the field, and these were not easy shots. I mean, he was getting hard shots on the inside, getting defended. He took 1 3-point shot and he hits that. 3 of 5 at the free throw line, 8 rebounds. That's a pretty damn good day's work.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we've kind of glossed right over how good he's been and how consistent he's been.
It's better every game.
As a guy that had a lot of was hyped big coming into college in his first year at Oregon, and hasn't had these kind of numbers, hasn't had this kind of contribution and this kind of minutes, and the fit is just there right now. Like, you can see, you're right, he looks more and more comfortable, which is a great thing, because in this league we know how good a lot of the big guys are, and to have a guy like him is such an advantage. It was this is the kind of guy, and I'm not trying to bring up any negatives, but this is the kind of guy lengthwise that Trace Jackson Davis struggled to play against, and now we have that guy. We're not having to have a guy out physical or out jump or beat everyone because they're more athletic than them or quicker than them. We've got a guy that's long-armed, athletic, able to score around the basket, able to step out and make shots. He's a tough guy to defend. And he and Malik Reneau look like those two guys were teammates in high school playing together. They look like they both came from Montverde Academy playing together. And boy, it sure is nice to see them be able to come out there and have a two-man big guy game. I mean, you talk about I'm going to have to say it's a pretty big upgrade. I mean, you look at last year, Indiana with Trace and Race. I mean, is this not an upgrade in your opinion?
Offensively, absolutely. There's no question, because not only do you have to worry about them in the paint, you have to watch out for both of those guys on the perimeter. I mean,
it's a duo. It's a duo. It's not really one. I mean, last year Trace had to put up 20 and 10 or 15 or 25 and 15 every game, because if he didn't, I mean, where was it going to come from? And that's really not the case. Although Kel'el's been extremely consistent, he's had help. He's had other guys that have stepped up, and Malik is, I think, a huge help for him coming in there. I'm glad that Kel'el Ware came in this year as Malik as a sophomore instead of a freshman, because I think his contribution, Malik looks like a totally different player. I think we would all agree than what he did last year, and it's fun to watch. So it's fun as an Indiana fan, as a basketball fan, watching two big guys work together. For some reason, that's just always something that's fun to watch.
Well, especially when they're athletic like that, man. They're not just lumbering around.
Right.
One of the things, though, they still have to improve on is rebounding. That's still kind of wishy-washy, but part of that's because I still go back to when I talked about Malik being able to hit the three. He's like, well, you can't rebound from out there. So that has cost them a little bit there. They did win the rebounding battle, but they used to, in a game like this, they would really dominate it. And they won it, but they did second chance points. Harvard with 18 versus 14 for Indiana. But Indiana did have 11 offensive rebounds, so that's a great sign there as well.
Yeah, and when you're talking about 9 for 26 from the three-point line, that's the guards that have to do a lot of rebounding. That's where you get Mgbako with 8 big rebounds. I mean, the guards have to contribute when you've got a team that's shooting that many three-pointers, because it's just you got a lot of long rebounds that are coming out of there, and not your typical big guy block out underneath fashion.
Yeah, and they're still not getting a ton done there. But also, the guy I really want to talk about is Caleb Banks. Caleb Banks is the silent assassin. I think he is the best player off the bench, because he has really widened his game. Is he a wing? He's playing underneath? He's getting a rebound. He's putting it back in. He's shooting a three. He's really, really broadening his game, and it's noticeable.
Yeah, it is. And I tell you, one of the interesting things with Caleb is I can't tell if he's a good shooter or not. He makes 2 for 4 from the three-point line, but he either makes it or it's a complete brick, because he doesn't have any that barely miss. Like they're either almost air balls or they go in. So I mean, but again, I don't want to pick out any negatives. I mean, this guy plays 10 minutes and makes 2 threes and has 3 rebounds. I mean, for a contribution in this game, that's huge. That's a big deal. He and Anthony Walker off the bench. I mean, I hope they're not comfortable in the roles, because I want them to keep begging for more playing time, keep playing well enough to get more playing time. But, man, it's sure nice to have two guys come off the bench that are athletic, can defend, can rebound. That little push jump shot in the lane for Anthony Walker is very tough to defend. That guy, he doesn't take very many bad shots. I mean, he's 3 for 4 tonight. He's driving into the lane. He gets 4 rebounds. I mean, he only played 13 minutes, 9 points in 13 minutes and 4 rebounds. Man, that's quite a contribution for guys coming off the bench.
He's another guy that is just, but he's
Super.
a veteran, so you kind of
right.
him, but you didn't really know what to expect because we were talking about everybody else coming into this year. But he is a solid piece to have out there. I'm not a fan of this first and second unit thing. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Indiana has the talent to be able to do that in wholesale. You just can't. I looked at there once and I'm like, there's not a starter on the floor, man.
Yeah.
You just can't. I don't think you can. You'll be able to do that. You cannot get away with that as the schedule gets tougher.
And they won't. And I mean, that's kind of what you need to do at this point in the season. I mean, you need to be able to get some guys minutes, especially the younger guys, get them more involved. I doubt we'll see those kind of lineups very often. We may see it from time to time, not for extended minutes, I wouldn't guess. But I mean, there's not going to be very many minutes in a game that is still up in the air where you're not going to have Xavier, Malik, and Kel'el Ware on the floor. And so I don't worry about those lineups. I just I think it's, if you can come away with it with a 13-point win against a team like Harvard, and you can get away with playing that many minutes with those guys, you got to look at it as a benefit because they're able to get some quality minutes in there, and it's just in the long run it'll pay off. It's not that fun to watch because when they do it, we never know where the scoring is coming from when they have those lineups in there.
Yeah, and like I said, that's the one thing I'm worried about Indiana not having some consistent production from the guards is there's going to come a day when they start playing teams that are not as easily dominated in the paint as Harvard or whomever else, and they're going to have it. And I'm talking about scoring, shooting. What Harvard was looking for that 3-point shot. They were 3 feet behind the arc, and in his hands, it's going. There was just no hesitation sometimes. Nobody on Indiana does that. It's staying within the framework and doing this and working the ball inside, which is great when you have the guys that they have. But they need a knockdown shooter. Maybe it's going to be McKenzie Mgbako as he continues to get comfortable. But Trey Galloway, man, we talked about him stepping it up. I have not seen that. He is not. He's just facilitating, I guess, is all the best thing I can.
And Jim, that's going to be his role. Like we talked about this early on. He's capable of making shots, but he's not a shooter. He's a scorer. He's a slasher. He's going to score, driving into the lane and making tough shots and making runners and getting to the free throw line and that kind of stuff. This game tonight was a lot like playing a team like Iowa. It wasn't like a slugfest when you're going to play, a team like Michigan State or somebody like that, but it was a lot like playing Iowa where they don't really throw it inside all that much. They're always looking for a 3. They got 3 or 4 guys on the floor all the time that can make a 3. And they were every bit as good and physical and athletic and big and good as shooters as Iowa. So this was a similar game to that. As I watched them play, I thought I noticed some of the same sets that they run and guys coming off shooting the same shots that Iowa shoots. And this was a good setup game for Indiana. I don't know if it was just luck or Indiana knew that Tommy Amaker was going to have this kind of team, but this was a good team for Indiana to play right before the Big Ten starts because they had to play some physical guys. They had to get moving up and down the court, and then they also had to be able to make some shots and score some points. 89 points, only making 4 3-pointers. I'm going to keep harping on it. That's a good thing for Indiana to be at.
Well, and as you said that, I just look. I'm like, okay, they make 2 more 3-pointers, and this is a 20-point game.
Yeah,
and that's a solid win. I don't care who you're playing and where you're playing.
Yeah, Harvard's a good team. Like, they're not a great team, but they're a very good team. They're going to get better as the year goes on. They've got a freshman that leads them in scoring, leads all freshmen in the country in scoring. And you saw why tonight. He's a very adept scorer and guy that's going to get buckets. And that's a good guy for Indiana to play against. They're going to play against a guy like that in Reed. Gosh, I can't think of his name. Who's the guard for Maryland? I just blanked his name, but the point guard for Maryland is a lot like him, and he seeks his shot. He's not as good a shooter, but he's as good at drawing fouls and getting to the basket. So, this was a good game for Indiana. Hey, we may not have too many opportunities to do it, so let's give Anthony Leal some credit for coming in there, filling some spots, playing his role, doing his job. I looked his stats up. He had a rebound and an assist, didn't take any shots, didn't come in trying to force something, trying to prove anything. Hey, Zach Duncan, good call. Leal, I thought very good minutes. I don't know if he gave us a spark, but he filled a spot that needed to be filled for that time and did a good job at it. And we didn't lose anything by putting him in there. And I'm happy to see a guy like that that's just fought through the years and not having minutes and all that. And he was ready when they called on him. And he didn't come in trying to prove anything. He didn't come in jacking up shots, which is what guys like me did.
Scott asking this question about the offense running a little bit better without X for a while. I would say no, it was just different. It forced them to do other things, and those things worked. But I don't know that I would say it was better.
Yeah, I mean, the offense, when you've got the guys on the inside that you can count on like that. I mean, I don't know that we can count on 28 and 17 from Malik and Ware, but when you've got guys that you can count on, I'm not saying those numbers, but decent numbers, double-digit numbers all the time. It's that third and fourth guy that you've got to be able to rely on, and Malik was that guy tonight. I mean, he was in there making the shots that Indiana has not made in the past 4 or 5 games. So, what did Heath say? What was the first part of it?
Does TG do well? And so I was leaving. Just thought I'd put that up there. I thought it was funny.
What does Galloway do well? Is that the question? Is that what he does?
Yes.
I mean, he's a good slasher. He's good at making the runners in the lane. He's a good defender for a guy his size. He can guard both a 2 and a 3 guard. You don't see him get bodied and posted up and all that very often. I mean, he does a lot of things well. One thing he doesn't do that well is shoot the ball, and I think that's where his game could go to a whole nother level if he became a consistent shooter. I mean, I think Mike Woodson would have a really long list of things that Trey Galloway does well. I mean, you want to talk about rotations and being on defense and talking and being a leader and those kinds of things. There's a long list of things that he does well. It's easy to pick on when a guy goes 0 for 4 from the 3-point line. It's easy to pick on things that he didn't do very well, but overall, he's a strong asset for this team, no question.
Tijon. You can always use
some people just pull names out of nowhere, don't they?
Well, he's one of the favorites. I don't want to forget this. Thank you, Matt, very much. Huge win for Indiana men's soccer program. Todd Yeagley, congratulations again. They were competing in their 9th consecutive Sweet 16. They were on the road at Wake Forest last week. They didn't take them down. Today they were on the road at number 7 Virginia. They take Virginia down 1-0. So now they're in the Elite 8, man. They're one game away from playing in their 23rd College Cup, which is going to be in Louisville, Kentucky. So, man, that would be incredible. If that were to happen, there would be buses going down to that game from
Well, there better be. Yeah, there better be. I mean, that program is it's one that's going to be copied and marveled about for a long time. And, the Big Ten will make more specials about them. And they made one about, Coach Yeagley Sr. originally. And Todd Yeagley, boy, I mean, he's picked up right where his dad left off and then expanded it and made it even better. And that doesn't happen very often. I mean,
matching those words earlier today. If you want to talk about culture, Indiana men's soccer is the epitome of culture. It is culture of winning over decades and doing it right and doing it successfully at the elite level. I mean, I can't think of anything like it.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, try to come up. I'm sure that historians could come up with any program at the college level, Division I college level, that's had this kind of a success through two coaches, let alone them be a father-son and a former player. And it's just who's the third one?
There was one in between. I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, was there really? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I think he won a national championship as well.
Well, but the level of success for the Yeagley family and what they have built at that place it's truly amazing. And it's actually, for people that didn't grow up playing soccer or knowing much about soccer, like I found myself learning a lot about it just simply because of how good they are and how, how consistently good they are. You want to see anyone. It's like Carmel swimming. I mean, they've won 25 national championships in a row. Like, it's just, you want to learn about how the culture of how they do that. And it's amazing. And the soccer team's just fun to be able to brag about.
Absolutely fun to watch it. And that's the only time I enjoy really watching soccer. I'm going to tell you.
Thanks, Bailey. Jameer Young is exactly who I was thinking of. That is exactly who Indiana's going to play against Maryland this weekend. And Malik, now I'm forgetting his name. The kid Indiana just played against that kid was good. He was a freshman for sure, but he was lot like, Malik Mack. I mean, he was a lot like what Indiana's going to play against this weekend in Young. So what a great timing of that game to be for Indiana.
Before I forget, let's remind you, Todd coming to you live from Hoosier Hanks East over off of College Mall Road. Make sure you stop in, visit Benny and the guys. And what did you have today?
Benny made me a pizza and one of his special salads tonight. So it was I'm full. I know I look full. I look bloated. I get it. I should. It's been a long week.
It's just I wish I was there because I'm like, can I make it there when I get out of here?
No. He's ready for me to close up shop here. So I don't think so.
I'm sure. Indiana now goes forward from here. What do they take from this game?
A lot. Like I said, I think the timing of it and the type of team that Harvard was is really good. I think it's going to prepare them for this Big Ten game. And I know I've already heard Coach Woodson talk about it, so I'm not like trying to guess something out of the air here. I know how important the Big Ten season, being competitive and being at the top of that league is to him. And getting off to a 2-0 start in December, not very many teams are able to do it. And you put yourself in that top category to start the year, and it's much easier to play from the front of the Big Ten than it is to come back after you dig yourself a hole. So, really important for them to get off to a good start in this game Friday against Maryland. And getting to start out at home is a big advantage.
Freitag, is the coach. I could not remember his name.
Thank you, Matt.
In between those I can't remember if he was there maybe for 6 years. I think, but just a continuation of that. That there's just never been a lull. That's the amazing thing.
Yeah, there hasn't. Yep.
So Indiana now moving on to in conference play and then back out of conference play. How you didn't have to do that? How hard do you think that would have been? Or
I don't think so. You look at game days. That's one thing Coach Knight was really good at, and these players are good at too. Like you look at game days as game days, and you prepare for teams. We didn't prepare for a Harvard game like this any differently than we would a Big Ten game. We did the same thing all the time. The preparation was the same. Now, once we got into the Big Ten season, we practiced a lot less, so we watched maybe more film than usual. But in this case, like Indiana's, when you're going to play against, a Maryland and an Auburn and a Kansas, over a really short period of time, I mean, they're all the same. Like you're going to prepare for them all the same, and you're going to try to get your body ready for all of them the same. And that's what I think the NBA pedigree of Coach Woodson is really good in helping these guys get their bodies right and eat right and treat it much more of a business than I think what some of the past coaching staffs right before this have done.
What is the best thing you saw come out of this game today?
Shots made, Mgbako being able to score some points, get some confidence. I mean, if you think about that, if you take that away from the stat sheet and you just look at the other ones, that's kind of the way the other games have been. I mean, they just came out of New York, and Malik and Kel'el Ware were the two guys that they kind of leaned on the whole time there. I hope that the injury to Xavier is something they just the second half just decided to rest him. I hope it's not a lingering thing that they're going to deal with. But if it is, then other guys are going to have to step up, and we're going to lean even harder on those guys on the inside. We're going to lean even harder on Banks and Walker off the bench. CJ Gunn came in and made a big shot tonight. Some of those positive things that are happening out of that, the positive momentum these guys are getting individually, I think will help the collective team. This is a 4-game stretch. I know the Big Ten part of it is huge from a coach's standpoint and from a fan standpoint, but I mean, all 4 of these games are big for these guys, and what a great opportunity. Let's not look at it as a negative. You want to play these kind of 4 games in a row. This is fun.
Yeah, and Gabe Cupps, we're still seeing him grow. Everyone says, well, what happened to him? What happened to this guy? What happened to that? Man, it's a process.
Freshman. And the answer from Coach Woodson is going to be the same. They're freshmen. Yep, it's a tough transition. And hey, I think the very first game of the year, Coach Woodson showed a lot of belief in being able to put Gabe Cupps at the end of the game. That's a good sign. His numbers have not been great. He's not played all that well since then, but he's still just transitioning. I mean, he will be fine. Like he'll be a major contributor on this team for this season and for the next 3 years to come. I mean, he's going to be a 4-year guy that Indiana fans are going to love, and he's still going to be a big factor on this team this year.
What does Indiana have to really improve on to become a better basketball team, one that compete in the Big Ten?
That 4 for 15 is right there. That I mean,
but how likely is that, considering what we've seen, not just this year, but over the last couple of years?
With Mgbako, it's very possible. Like likely. I mean, that's one way to look at it. I mean, it's very possible. I mean, these guys, like I said, Indiana's not going to be a team that we're not saying they have to make 13 threes in order to win. That's the positive. I mean, we're just saying they've got to have a few more guys that are able to step up and make shots. I mean, I don't want to have to rely on Banks to make 2 3-pointers in every game. And if you take his away, I mean, this team really struggles to shoot the ball when you look at the starters. And, I mean, the best shooter, in my opinion, the best shooter out of our starting lineup is either Xavier Johnson, which I can't believe would ever come out of my mouth, or Kel'el Ware, who's 7'1" guy. And that's not great. Mgbako is by far the best shooter on this team. There's no questions asked, but he's a freshman and he's got to get comfortable. And if that's one thing they can improve on the most, that is definitely the thing they can improve on the most, because that's the thing they're the worst at.
Something I didn't think about, but Jordan Geronimo will be coming back to Assembly Hall as he is wearing a Maryland uniform. And yes, I certainly hope that. I know the fans will be respectful. Everyone loved Geronimo. It's the students that I worry about, because
they'll be fine. Look,
they go a little nuts sometimes.
Here's one thing: it's college basketball. Students are supposed to be a kind of a part of it.
Well, you're supposed to do. You can do that.
They're supposed to be kind of a pain in the butt. But I mean, it is what it is. Like, as long as they're not rude, they're fine. They're fine.
The Ace says the next 4 games will tell a lot about where Indiana is and where they can go.
It'll tell a lot about Indiana from the standpoint of, are they going to be a top 20 team, or are they going to be a team that struggles to make the NCAA tournament? That, to me, the next 4 games will tell us a lot about where they stand at that point. And I think Indiana has the capability of being a pretty high top 20 team, closer to a top 10 team. I think they have that capability. Have they played that level so far? No. Please jump on Twitter and tell me what an idiot I am. That's fine. I believe that these guys have the tools to be at that level. They haven't played there yet. I'm the first one to admit that. But I've watched a lot of basketball. I mean, they just had the Maui Classic and Battle for Atlantis and the NIT. All those. There's a lot of teams that didn't play all that well. There's some teams that looked way better than others. Purdue, Marquette, those teams look like midseason form. Not everyone looks midseason form right now, and I think Indiana's kind of in that category of teams that have the capability but aren't there yet.
The truth is cracking me up, Robert.
Yeah.
Every time I ever even bring up something about football, he's like, "It's basketball season. It's basketball season. It's basketball season." Now
he wants to know who's the new coach.
All he wants to talk about is football.
Yeah. I mean, some people you just can't believe them no matter what.
I'm just with.
I know it. Robert's the best. He's the best.
Yeah. Well, there is that.
But there is, yeah. I mean, it's out there. Hey, you know what? I am very confident in saying I had 3 interactions in my life with Coach Tom Allen, and every single one of them, he made me feel like I was the most important person in the conversation. So I have nothing but positive things to say about him. I wish things had been better. I think I'm just regurgitating what most Indiana fans feel in that situation. And I have nothing. I hope nothing but great things for him. And I hope Indiana hires somebody great and they turn things around and make it awesome. Because the good football program only helps every program at the school. Well, no question about it.
We're at a point in college athletics now where it's more than necessary, especially if you want to remain a part of sitting at the big boys table instead of the kids table at Christmas. You better have a competitive football program, because that is the engine that drives the money.
That's the money. It's the money. Yeah, I mean, it is. Indiana basketball is the leading thing in the state of Indiana, even at Purdue and Indiana or whatever. But the money comes from football. Look at all the teams in the country that have the big money, and it's all the Ohio States and Michigans and Alabamas and Penn States and Georgias of the world. Like, they're all football schools. So, I mean, Indiana is good enough with the restructuring of the Big Ten. They should be able to hire someone, I would think, that's a pretty big name and it's a good job. It's a good job. I mean, it's a tough job, but it's a good job, I think.
Big Ten, baby.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that on the show tomorrow. Andrew makes a great point. 89 points wins a lot of games.
Hey, that's why I put 4 for 15 up there, so that I would keep reminding myself this team scored 89 points and only made 4 threes. Not very many teams do that. And that's a positive. I'm saying it as a positive. They just got to figure out a way to make some more threes, and this game will be a lot easier for them to win.
Andy asking about updates on X or Malik. X is just I'd say a day by day. They're just trying to get him healthy. They've got a big game coming up in a week, so he probably could have played if he had to today.
Well,
I don't know that for a fact, but there was no reason.
We've seen Xavier even in the games where he's gotten hurt, and his facial expressions kind of tell a lot of the story as to how severe something might be. And at the end of the game, he was laughing and joking and with guys out on the court and other teammates and people in the stands, not somber like he just re-injured something. It was more of I'm sitting out from a healing perspective. We don't play again until Friday. So that 5 days of healing would be great for him. So I don't look at it that way. Malik came back in the game, and I will tell you, I don't know a more cautious training healthcare staff than what Indiana has. So if there was anything to that, I don't think we would have seen Malik come back into this ball game. So I don't know anything other than I'm going to say I know Indiana is extremely conservative, and they let him back in the game. So I feel pretty confident.
During Archie Miller's tenure,
they've had a lot. These guys have been there for a long time. Tim Garrell's 103 years old,
and he looks like he's 33.
He looks exactly the same as he did when I was there.
Herbal asking a question that no, you're not. Are you the only one that thinks Woody needs to try a different approach to his substitutions? No, I mentioned that earlier. That you can't have a first. There's not a college team that I know of that has a first and second unit that they routinely put in. Not Kansas, not Duke, not Kentucky, not anybody.
Yeah, and also remember, like, it's early in the season. This is why they play these games early in the season. They're trying to get these guys minutes. They're trying to get them, some experience out on the court playing together. These are a lot of new guys playing together. So, I mean, if we get into the Big Ten season and you start seeing platoon substitutions, maybe you could have an opinion on it. But at this time of the year, that's what these games are actually for. So let's jump the gun here too quick.
Look at Cheryl getting out of here in a hurry, man. She was sitting in row or section 104 seat something, I remember, and she's already home watching.
She booked it.
Couch, got her feet up.
Quick. Indiana fans are quick.
Boy, I'm still here. Todd's still out slaving away. There you go, Robert. We will discuss that tomorrow. Let's see. You're all talking. Hey, Kurt Knight. Good evening, sir. From Greenville. Oh, buddy Curtis. How are you, my friend? Matt says even Woody knows you have to beat Purdue. That's going to be a very tall order this year. I can promise you that. Not that it won't be. That's going to be an interest. Not I want to get ahead because that's so far out. But it's hard not.
Yes.
What is this matchup going to be like from a standpoint?
It's exciting to think about. It really is. But you're exactly right. Like we can't even sniff that road right now. Like we have a lot of big things to step over to get to that point. Like this team's not ever going to look ahead to something like that. But as fans, we can. I mean, the matchup between Edie and Indiana's big guys, yeah, it's going to be a blast. Like that's going to be fun to watch.
Indianation says that Mike needs to change the offense a little to get shooters open. There's probably some truth to that, and there's probably some truth to the shooters need to work harder to get open.
Totally. There is a major part of that. The best shooter on Indiana's team is Malik Mgbako. He's a freshman. He has yet to learn how to move without the ball, how hard you have to work. I mean, watch Steph Curry. The reason Steph Curry makes so many three-pointers is because he's able to shoot so many three-pointers because he gets himself open, and he runs a mile and runs 100 miles an hour all the time. So these guys are learning. They'll get to there. It's not necessarily Woody's offense. It's a lot the players getting comfortable with each other. I don't think the offense is going to change. We're going to see this kind of pro style, a lot of ball screens. He's already changed it a little bit, I think, and gone away from that to more just punching it inside and trying to get the ball into Malik and Kel'el's hands. So, those are things that I think Indiana's getting better at. I think they're going to continue to get better at. I don't think the offense will change. What's that? When I sent you the stats the other night, Purdue was 7 of 9 from 3 in the first half. Thanks, Mom. She's just reminding me. She knows that's all I complain about all the time is how many made 3-pointers they have. She tells me to talk about something else. So,
well, but it's not going away. That's a thing. That seven.
I know
3-pointers. That does a lot right there. It's not 18. It's just 7. That's a chunk of points.
It's a big deal. I mean, it makes the game so much easier.
Especially when you got a guy who's going to get 30.
It makes the game so much easier. Like you hang around in games when they make 3-pointers. It's just obviously you proved it. I mean, you look at this team tonight in Harvard. I mean, they had the lead at halftime, and it was only because they were able to make 3-pointers, and they didn't shoot that great a percentage for the game.
Yeah, and I think that or hope we didn't see it against UConn, but hopefully this will be the igniter for McKenzie to carry this on against in the Big Ten, the games that are coming up with Maryland and Michigan, and then of course with Kansas and Auburn, which will follow after that.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I would not feel near as confident going into these 4 games coming up had McKenzie not had the contributions that he had tonight, and also Banks and Walker. I mean, those guys were big time tonight, all of them. But McKenzie gaining some confidence heading into this. We saw Kel'el Ware play great. We saw Malik Reneau play great in New York. We've seen that pretty much in every game. What a luxury to have to be able to fall back on those guys. You could count on big guys having consistently good nights a lot more often than you can shooters. We just hadn't seen Malik. And I have told you, I think you know, I'm not jumping off that train. I've told you from day one, Malik is the best shooter on this team. There is not – I'm sorry. Mgbako is the best shooter on this team. There is not anyone that's even remotely close to him. And
he's got a smooth-looking shot.
It'll prove itself. It'll prove itself. Like over the year, it'll prove itself.
And I don't know what other team has a 1-2 combination like Malik Reneau.
You can't really think of one. I mean, Not both of them that are that good of inside players. I mean, if you want to look at
Edie, so well. They play together really well.
Edie's got Trey Kaufman, Wren, and
but that's not the same to me. That's more like a wing.
It's close. They bring in Gillis also, but Gillis is definitely different. He steps out, makes a lot more outside shots, doesn't back in the post as much, but Kaufman Wren does, and that's two guys that are fairly similar. You're just never going to find anyone that's going to match up. I don't care what Kel'el Ware does or whatever. You're not going to find anyone that matches up like an Edie. Like Edie is a rare human, a rare college basketball player that I'm not just saying Purdue had. Like he's rare in college basketball, period. Like no one knows how to guard it. And yeah, I know everyone's going to say they got beat in the first round of the tournament, and they did, and they're going to live with that all year long. But he's a tough defend. He's just because Ware's that tall, I'm not even necessarily sure he's who's going to guard Edie, and vice versa. So, I mean, we'll see. That's a fun matchup to be able to think about. I'm glad Indiana is good enough that we're excited about that game versus scared to death.
And how I think about Ja'Kai Newton, I'm like, golly, what could he bring to this? It's everybody keeps asking about him. I'm not. I don't even think about it because I'm just assuming he's out for the year.
Yeah, he has to be. Yeah. I mean, based on what I saw of him with his
I'm thinking
leg still his leg was still in a full air cast like a month ago. So, I mean, I don't think they even attempt to have him come back this year.
It would be nice, but because this team they're this close to being a really good team.
Yes. They're this close to they're shooters away from being really good. Like, I mean, really good.
And
really good.
Well, it has been another great day, another great show. We can't thank everybody enough for taking the time to join us. We appreciate you. Make sure you stop by Hoosier Hanks East over off of College Mall Road, rather.
College Mall Road.
In Bloomington on the east side, where Todd is taking all the food home now, and I'll go home and eat leftovers.
I got a big old pizza that's coming home, Jessica.
Your mom's saying, "Where's mine?"
Yeah, well, that's the opposite direction. You're closer to my mom.
I know I'm closer to her than you are right now.
Yeah.
But thank everybody again, and of course we'll be back for the next game, which Maryland, right?
Yep, Friday
night. Get a week off finally. Woo.
Big time, fun week to think about. Starting the Big Ten season on a Friday night. Like what a fun! Like this next 4 games are awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, put Sparks up against him.
Sparks will get time. Sparks will be a big. We'll have games. We talk about what a great contribution he made in the game. So that's what's fun to be.
He let him bang on a big boy, Big Mount Edie. That'll be fun to watch.
I'm not talking any trash about Mount Edie because I don't know how you defend that human.
Hey, make sure you stop by Hoosier Hanks East off of College Mall Road.
Please do.
Stop by and see Benny and the guys over there. They do an incredible job. I look forward to getting by there as soon as I can, which will probably not be until sometime this week. But the coaches show tomorrow night, I know that's over at Chop Shop. So Don Fisher and crew will be there, but we'll be back on the air tomorrow morning with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Plenty to talk about. In addition to this game, of course, a lot going on with Indiana football. We'll get to all that then. But we can't thank you guys enough for taking the time to join us. Big thanks to Todd Leary, of course, for always being here and taking care of biz.
I love it.
For Todd, I love it. I'm Jim Coyle. Until tomorrow, I will see you on the radio.